someone told you debt was simple, put it in two buckets, good debt and bad debt, and you'd be fine. That advice isn't just lazy. It's the reason people who are genuinely trying, people who pay on time, people who budget carefully, people who feel responsible with their money are quietly falling behind anyway. And the frustrating part, they have no idea it's happening because the damage doesn't show up as a crisis. It shows up as a gap, a slow, invisible gap between where they are and where they thought they'd be by now. Because whether a debt builds your wealth or bleeds, it has almost nothing to do with what you bought with it. It comes down to one number, a number sitting right there on every loan statement you own. A number most people have never once stopped to calculate. By the end of this video, you'll know that number. You'll be able to run it on your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card, your student debt, every single one, and know in actual dollars which ones are quietly working for you and which ones are working against you every single month. The people who use debt to get rich aren't smarter than you. They aren't making more money than you. They just check this number and then they did something with what they found. I know how that sounds. Let me show you exactly what I mean. My name is Finn, and if this is your first time here, this channel is about the math behind money decisions, not the feel-good stuff, not the broad strokes advice, the actual numbers run on real situations. Hit subscribe if that's what you're here for. And if this video changes the way you look at the loans in your life, and hit like. It helps more people find this content than you'd think. Okay, let's go back to the very beginning. Debt has one definition. 1, someone gives you money today, you give it back later, plus a fee for the privilege of using it now. That fee is the interest rate, a mortgage, a car loan, a student loan, a credit card balance you've been carrying since before you can remember, a personal loan you took out for a home repair, a buy now, pay later balance sitting quietly on your phone. Strip away everything else, the paperwork, the institution, what you bought, and they are all identical instruments. Money now, money back later, plus a rate. The difference is people obsess over what the money was spent on, whether it felt responsible, whether your parents would have approved of the purchase. Those are labels stuck on the outside of the box. The machine inside the box is exactly the same every time, and yet personal finance has spent decades sorting these identical machines into two bins. Good debt, mortgages, student loans, business loans, anything that sounds like an investment, anything that has the word asset somewhere nearby. Bad debt, credit cards, payday loans, store financing, anything that sounds like a splurge, anything connected to something you just wanted. It is the most repeated, most trusted framework in personal finance, handed down from parents to kids, repeated in every money book, reinforced by every financial advice column you've ever clicked, and it is wrong often enough to quietly ruin people. Not dramatically, not in a way they'd ever identify as the cause, just slowly, consistently, compoundingly wrong, because it is sorting debt by the wrong variable entirely. Here is the rule this entire video runs on. Everything else is just this rule operating on real numbers. A debt makes you richer or poorer based on a single comparison. The interest rate on the debt against the return you could earn on that same money if it weren't tied up servicing that debt. That is the whole thing. Not what you bought, not whether the purchase felt virtuous, not what category a financial advisor puts it in. The rate on the debt versus the alternative. Think about it from the lender's perspective, just reversed. When you carry a debt at a given rate, you are effectively guaranteeing yourself a loss at that rate every year, compounding until it's gone. A balance at 22% interest is a guaranteed 22% drain on every dollar sitting in that balance. Every single year. So ask the only question that matters. Could that same money have reliably earned more than 22% somewhere else? Almost never. So the debt drains you. Now flip it, a fixed debt at 3 or 4%. While your money earns 9 or 10% invested over time. That debt is quietly making you richer because you are borrowing cheap and earning more on the difference. Same instrument, completely opposite outcome. The only thing that changed was the number, and here is what makes this maddening. The number is right there. on the statement every month. Most people just never look at it the right way. Let me show you what this looks like in practice, and I want to be specific because specific is what makes this real. Meet Marcus. By every conventional measure, Marcus is responsible with money. He's never missed a payment in his life, not once. He keeps a budget. He knows roughly what he spends each month. He would tell you, and he would genuinely mean it, that he is good with money. Marcus also carries a credit card balance, around $9,500 month to month, the way tens of millions of people do without ever really thinking of it as a problem. He doesn't think of it as a crisis. It doesn't feel like one. It feels like a background fact of adult life, like a utility bill, like a phone plan, something he's slowly handling. He puts a few $100s toward it each month. The balance drifts down a little, and he moves on with his week, feeling reasonably okay about it. Here's what Marquez has never calculated. His card charges 22% interest on a $9,500 balance. That is $2,090 a year in interest alone, not reducing the debt, just renting it, paying for the right to keep owing it. That works out to $174 every single month, leaving Marcus's bank account and touching exactly $0 of what he actually owes. Gone before he even gets to the balance, and because he's putting just enough toward it to feel like progress without actually making much, the math becomes extraordinarily patient with him. At his current pace, it takes Marcus just over 5 years to clear that $9,500, and along the way, he hands the lender close to $7,000 in interest payments. He pays more than $16,000 to retire a $9,500 debt. Marcus, the one who never misses a payment, the one who budgets, the one who is genuinely trying, is running a quiet, automatic, permanent monthly donation to a financial institution. And he has never felt it as a crisis because it never arrives as one. It just arrives as a statement every month that he pays on time. Now, meet David. David has debt too. A 30-year fixed mortgage at 6.8% by the good debt, bad debt framework. David is fine. Mortgage equals good debt, asset, appreciating, responsible. End of analysis. But David's defining financial trait isn't the mortgage. It's what he refuses to carry alongside it. David does not maintain a revolving balance on anything that costs him more than that mortgage rate. No high interest card with a creeping balance. No finance furniture sitting at 19%. No stack of buy now pay later purchases quietly adding up in an app on his phone. When he has money left over at the end of the month, it does not sit in checking. It does not drift toward minimum payments on high rate debt. It goes to work. Let's say David puts $550 a month into a broad market index fund. The same $550 that Marcus is effectively sending to his card in interest and minimum payments that barely move the needle at a 10% annual return, the long-run historical average of the stock market. $550 a month grows to around $113,000 in 10 years, $420,000 in 20 years, and just over $1.2 million in 30 years. I want to be straight with you about that last number. This channel doesn't dress things up. 10% is the nominal return before inflation eats into it. In today's real purchasing power, that figure lands closer to $670,000. Still, $670,000 from $550 a month. From nothing more complicated than refusing to stand on the wrong side of a single line. Now stop and look at what actually separates these two men, because this is important. It is not income. Marcus and David could be earning the exact same salary. It is not discipline. Marcus is disciplined. He pays every bill on time. He tracks his spending. He tries. It is not even the presence of debt. Both of them have debt. The only difference is which side of one line they're standing on. Marcus's money is committed at 22%, working against him every month without fail. David's money is committed at 10%, working for him every month without fail. while his cheapest debt sits well below that return. Same paycheck, same instrument, one number pointed in completely opposite directions. So what is that line exactly? Where does it sit? This is the number nobody tells you to calculate, and it is worth getting precisely right. The line is the point where your debt's interest rate crosses the return you could earn on your money elsewhere. Below the line, the debt is cheaper than what your money can earn. Keep the debt. Put the extra money to work instead. Above the line, add the debt costs more than your money can earn. Kill the debt first. Investing before doing that is backwards. Every debt decision you will ever face is just locating this crossover point, loan by loan. So where does the line actually sit for most people? You need a number for what your money earns elsewhere, and the honest answer comes in two versions. The conservative version, a high yield savings account or short-term treasury, right now earns somewhere in the 4 to 5% range. No risk, fully liquid, federally insured. The growth version, the stock market has returned around 10% a year over the long run. Decades of data support that number, but it is not guaranteed. It is not smooth. Some years it's up 25%, some years it's down 30%. The average is real. The path is not. Combine those two reference points and a practical line starts to emerge. Above roughly 7 to 8%, a debt almost certainly costs you more than your money can reliably earn anywhere else. Attack it aggressively. Below roughly 5 to 6%, especially on a fixed rate, you are usually better served by keeping the debt and directing spare cash toward investments instead. Between 5 and 8% is a genuine gray zone. The right answer there depends on your tax situation, your risk tolerance, and critically, whether that interest rate can rise on you. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part most people miss completely. Paying off a debt is not just a return, it is a guaranteed tax-free return. When you invest and earn 10%, the government takes a cut of that gain. Capital gains tax, ordinary income tax on dividends. Whatever form it takes, a portion of that return is not yours. When you eliminate a 22% debt, you keep the entire 22%. No tax, no broker, no volatility, because you are not earning income. You are removing an expense, and expenses are not taxed when you stop paying them. That distinction matters enormously. It means high rate debt is even worse than the rate suggests, because every dollar you earn to pay for it has already been taxed before it gets there. And it means eliminating it is even better than the rate suggests, because every dollar of debt you kill saves you an after-tax dollar you no longer owe. Go back to Marcus's card at 22%. When Marcus pays it off, he is not just clearing a bill, he is earning a return, a guaranteed, automatic, tax-free 22% return. Now hold that number against everything else he could do with that money. The stock market's long-run return, around 10%, taxed on the way out, and volatile the whole time. The best savings account on earth. Around 4 to 5%, safe, yes, but barely keeping pace with inflation. There is no legal, accessible investment available to Marcus or to you that reliably delivers a guaranteed 22% tax-free with zero risk. None. And yet that investment was sitting in Marcus's mailbox every single month, disguised as a bill. Paying off that card beats the expected return of the stock market more than 12 percentage points a year. Guaranteed. The highest returning, lowest risk investment most people will ever have access to is the high interest debt they already owe. Sit with that for a second. This is exactly where the good debt, bad debt framework falls apart at the seams. It would have told Marcus what it tells everyone. Credit card bad, pay it down eventually, don't let it get worse, without ever once revealing that paying it down aggressively right now was the single best financial move available to him, bar none. And it's also where a different kind of person quietly enters the story. You've probably heard it. Wealthy people use debt to get richer. They borrow instead of selling. They have access to some financial lever that normal people are locked out of. There's a version of this story that is pure marketing, sold by people who want you in a course or a mastermind. And there's a version that is completely mechanically real. The real version is just the rule from this video. Run at a larger scale with better rates. Here's how it works. Wealthy people accumulate assets that grow, stocks, real estate, businesses. They hold them without selling, so the gains keep compounding and never trigger a tax event. And when they need cash, they don't sell the asset and pay the tax. They borrow against it at a relatively low rate and let the asset keep compounding in the background. Borrow at 5 or 6%, earn 9 or 10%, keep the spread, defer the taxes indefinitely. Left side of the line, use deliberately, systematically, because the math runs in their favor every year they do it. Here's that same logic at a scale that's actually relatable. Say you need $40,000 and you happen to have it sitting in an investment account. The obvious move, sell, take the cash, move on. But selling triggers tax. Say $25,000 of that is capital gains taxed at 15%. You hand the government $3,750 and you permanently give up the future compounding on what you sold. The alternative, borrow $40,000 against the portfolio at around 6 or 7%. Leave the investments untouched, still compounding at 10%. You pay 6 or 7, you earn 10. You keep the 3 or 4 point spread every year, and you defer the entire tax bill. Same rule, same line, more zeros. I'll be honest with you, this is not without risk. Borrowing against investments adds real exposure. If those assets fall sharply, a margin call can force you to sell at the absolute worst moment. This is the advanced end of the spectrum, not a starting point, not advice for most situations. I include it because it proves the point. What wealthy people are doing with debt is not a fundamentally different game. It is the same rule you now know how to find and apply, just with more zeros and more risk tolerance behind it. So here is the answer to the question we started with. Debt and wealth are not opposites. They're the same lever. Point it below the line, borrow cheap, earn more, and debt actively builds your wealth. Whether you're David with a straightforward mortgage or someone with a leveraged portfolio, point it above the line, borrow expensive, earn less or nothing, and the identical instrument drains you systematically. Whether you're Marcus with a credit card or anyone who has simply never checked the number, the people who use debt to build wealth were not handed a different tool. They just learned which direction to point it, which means the only thing left to do is point yours. Pull up every debt you carry, write the interest rate next to each one, then lay each against the line. A credit card at 22%, far above the line. The highest guaranteed tax-free return you have access to right now. Attack it first, aggressively. A store card or buy now, pay later balance at 28 to 30%. That is not a background expense. That is a financial emergency. Treat it exactly like one. A personal loan around 11 or 12%. Above the line, next in the queue after you clear the high rate revolving debt. A car loan around 8 or 9%. Still above the line. The gap is smaller, but it's still costing you more than you can earn. Keep accelerating it. A student loan around 6 or 7%, gray zone. Pay it on schedule and invest alongside it. Don't obsess over paying it early at the expense of building wealth. A fixed mortgage around 6.5 to 7%, gray zone. Leaning toward keep. Paying it down early is a guaranteed 6.5 to 7% return. Investing instead is a probable 10% that could underperform for years. This is not a slam dunk in either direction. Anyone who tells you it obviously is has not actually run the full comparison. Notice what this framework does to the old sorting system. It throws out the good debt, bad debt bins completely, replaces them with a single ranked list ordered by rate, highest rate at the top. You attack from the top. When you drop below the line, you stop attacking the debt and start directing that money toward investments instead. Clean, specific, actionable. One exception worth naming before we wrap: if your employer offers a retirement match, Capture it before anything else on this list. A 50% match on your contribution is a 50% instant return. That beats a 22% credit card. That beats everything. Get the full match, then let the line decide everything else. And the same logic runs on the savings side too. Keeping cash in a traditional bank savings account at the national average of around 0.4%, $50,000 earns you less than $200 a year. That same $50,000 in a high yield account at 4 to 5% earns over $2,000. Same money, same FDIC protection, same liquidity. The only difference is whether you checked the rate and moved your money to where it earns more. Same rule, same line, just on the asset side of the ledger. Step back and look at what this gap is actually worth across a lifetime. Marcus and David earned the same paycheck every year. David got his money on the right side of the line from the start. Marcus spent years clearing high-rate debt before he could begin investing. That head start, just being on the correct side of the line sooner, is worth somewhere around $190,000 between them over 30 years. Not from earning more, not from a lucky investment, not from a side hustle or a windfall, from understanding one number and pointing the same lever in the right direction earlier. Debt is not good or bad, it is a rate measured against an alternative, and that comparison takes about as long to run as it does to read the rate off a statement. The people who use debt to build wealth are not operating a secret. They checked a number you can check right now. Now you know which number, and you know exactly which way it needs to point. If this video changed how you see the loans in your life, hit like. It genuinely helps more people find this. Subscribe if you want to keep running the real numbers together, and drop a comment right now telling me the interest rate on your highest debt. I read all of them.